Hey, welcome back, everybody, to LWN Network and Headline Hits with your host, me, Tammy Nation. I am here every Monday through Thursday bringing you headlines from the news and from around the world here on the LWN Network. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon or morning, depending on where you're at. It is March 10th, 2025, and this weekend had no loss of news headlines and shenanigans going on through the world. So I'm going to cover some of those for you today. In the meantime, if you haven't already, can you please like and share and subscribe this channel as we work to grow it? We also have our YouTube channel hooked up as well, and you can also find us on Rumble. So we have all three platforms running each and every time we're on, Monday through Thursday. And I hope everybody had a blessed, peaceful weekend. I know that it was busy for me, and I enjoyed digging into the news for you like I always do. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that this morning. And the first headlines we have up is we're going to talk about how last week we reported about the $2 billion Stacey Abrams received from Joe Biden's Environmental Protection Agency. It's the EPA. Now, ex-Georgia House Rep Stacey Abrams came out and stated she did receive that, and it was to greenwash home appliances and would have some linked and likened to alleged Democrats' vote buying scheme. So EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin recently revealed that the Biden era passed through $20 billion in gold bars or grants to leftist groups. The Abrams-linked Power Forward communities received $2 billion of that as part of these grants. It's a sum amounting to 20 million times what the organization's reported revenue was. So Zeldin wrote on X, Stacey Abrams' Power Forward communities received $2 billion to a pass-through entity for Biden's EPA $20 billion gold bar scheme. They reported just 100 million in total revenue and their founding in late 2023. So how they went from $100 in total revenue to 20 billion in gold bar scheme and kickbacks is pretty interesting to me. So Abrams, of course, took to MSNBC recently to claim that there was nothing nefarious about Power Forward communities receiving billions of dollars in taxpayer funds. Steve Malloy, who served on President Donald Trump's first-term EPA transition team, described the Abrams-linked grift as a vote-buying ploy akin to the Obama-era Obama phones. So Stacey Abrams also came out on CNN this past week and called President Donald J. Trump a petty tyrant surrounded by complicit flunkies. She stated on her podcast, "We will have to call out Donald Trump on all his lies. We have to point out that the unelected oligarch Elon Trump is doing his best to steal America from its people." She also added that we have a complicit Congress that is allowing him to fire thousands of people that should be delivering services to Americans, and he is now starting trade wars to cover the fact that he has failed to deliver on his day one promises. Donald Trump is an early failure, and he's hoping that by attacking folks like me and others, we won't notice that he has failed and that he has no intention of delivering anything other than retribution. It's the job of the Americans to stand up and say we want what we voted for, and that is progress for America, not petty revenge for Donald Trump. Isn't that their cry and their call for 2025? Because they don't know how to handle everything that Donald J. Trump and his administration is tearing down and exposing. So Stacey Abrams has been very vocal of late from Georgia. So we'll continue to follow that and see what comes of her having to face some charges regarding kickbacks and the sort. So this next story, I'm going to warn you, has strong language and content. It comes from border czar Tom Homan. So if you want to turn the volume down or get the kids out of the room, now's the time to do so. I did calm it down a bit, but I think it's very important to cover exactly how border czar Tom Homan has expressed what he's been dealing with. He's been busy taking care of arresting and deporting the illegals across the country, as you know, and he had some things recently to say about sanctuary cities. He said, "I'm going to sanctuary cities such as Boston and bringing hell with me." Homan was asked in the interview about his hometown of Boston and the mayor Michelle Wu's resistance to border enforcement and insistence on remaining a sanctuary city. "Well, we're going to Boston. I made a comment at CPAC. I was going to go to Boston and I'm bringing hell with me," Homan responded. I meant it, I said it, and everyone should agree with that statement. I made it right after I talked about 9 child sex predators that ICE took off the streets of Massachusetts in a short time frame. So when I say I'm coming to Boston, bringing hell with me, yeah, I'm bringing hell to illegal aliens that physically harm children, Homan said. So I stand by what I said, I meant what I said, and I'm going to do it. Holman stated the mayor has obviously lost her mind and should agree there's no sanctuary for child rapists. He asked why should they be released, noting that they were not able to contact them for almost 2 years and that their detainer was ignored. We couldn't find this guy, and how many little kids did he sexually assault in those 2 years they released him? So you're damn right I'm upset, Holman said. Someone who sexually assaulted a child is the worst of the worst of the worst. So yeah, I'm going to Boston. Holman stated that I'm bringing hell to every illegal, every single one of them who commits a serious offense in this country, especially those who attacked our most of innocents, and that's our children. When he asked why Democratic mayors are so against these common sense positions, Holman said they put politics before reason. And every elected mayor, every elected governor, and every elected city council person, what's your number one job? What's your number one responsibility? It's protection of their communities. So why would you not help us remove public safety threats to neighborhoods, he asked. That's your number one moral responsibility. He said, I don't get it, but I just think that they've lost their mind. I think politics over public safety is politics over common sense. That is what they're saying. I think there can't be any other reason. And you know, President Donald J. Trump echoed that sentiment. He said they have lost their minds when he was talking to reporters aboard Air Force One this weekend. Next up, we have Senator Lindsey Graham. Congress should pass a rescission package to enact DOGE spending cuts during a news conference on March 5th. He also said he is also the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. This has been talked about, he said, by conservatives, but President Trump and his team are actually doing it. Like any major reform effort, there will be missteps that need to be corrected. However, it is long past time for us to evaluate how Americans' tax dollars are being spent and what they are being spent on. We have massive national debt and run at least $1 trillion of deficit every year. DOGE's work product is stunning. What they're doing is I applaud their efforts for all they're doing already. They are finding outrageous examples of wasteful spending that should offend Democrats, Republicans, independents, libertarians, and vegetarians. I actually agree with Lindsey at this point. The money taxpayers send to Washington comes from hard work and should be honored, not wasted. There is certainly a role for government in our lives, but your hard-earned tax dollars should be treated with respect, not a sense of entitlement. For some reason, he's flipped up and he's speaking some honesty and truth here. I don't know where he's been all along, but like I said, I can agree with this. So the question is, Lindsey goes to explain, how do you cut the crazy stuff they found in the federal budget? Well, the answer is through a process called rescission. It allows the White House to put together a package of spending cuts and send it to Congress for approval. A rescission package has to originate from the White House, and there are some budgetary limits of how and what can be cut. However, I believe of what DOGE is doing and what they've done, it would fit in within these perimeters. President Trump attempted to use this process in 2018 to cut federal spending. Unfortunately, we fell short in the Senate by 2 votes. But the American people have spoken once again, and President Trump's attitude and insistence that things change in Washington is most assuredly paying off. Lindsey says by using the rescission process, we can cut waste out of the government and hopefully restore some confidence to the public that things are changing in Washington for the better. He says, I urge the White House in collaboration with the House and Senate to put together a rescission package using DOGE's work product as soon as possible. We need to demonstrate to the American taxpayer that the Trump administration and Republican majorities in Congress are not just talking about cutting waste from the federal budget, but they are actually doing it. Because we all know we have no confidence in our government with everything that we've been seeing being exposed. So he says the Senate Budget Committee is an integral to this process as rescission is allowed under the Congressional Budget of Impoundment Control Act of 1974. So I think it's really important that we understand what this rescission is. I welcome a rescission package from the White House that is built around DOJ's work product. The sooner it starts, the better off the taxpayer, you and I, will be. Lindsay says the spending reduction package can be passed by a simple majority vote. In other words, if all Republicans in the House and the Senate voted for the rescission package, it would pass without a single Democratic vote. However, he said, as he wrapped it up, I would hope that Democrats would join Republicans in voting to eliminate the outrageous and at times comical spending discovered by DOJ. So we'll have to wait and see what comes of that. But like I said, that pretty much makes a lot of sense from Lindsay. Next up, we have DHS Secretary Kash Nome announced that 2 people who had leaked information regarding the operations of DHS have been identified. She said, we have identified 2 leakers of information here at the Department of Homeland Security who have been telling individuals about our operations and putting law enforcement lives in jeopardy. We plan to prosecute these 2 individuals and hold them accountable for what they have done. We are going to continue to do all that we can to keep America safe, Nome added. We are preparing to refer these perpetrators to the DOJ for felony prosecutions. These individuals face up to 10 years in federal prison. We will find out and root out all leakers. They will face prison time, and we will get justice for the American people. That is so refreshing and made me very happy, and I'm sure you guys too. We want to see people being held accountable for the atrocities they've put against the American people for a very long time. Next up, Shalom Columbia. The Trump administration, led by U.S. Department of Education and the Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism, has canceled $400 million in federal grants to Columbia University over its failure to protect Jewish students from anti-Semitic harassment. So Donald J. Trump said, Shalom, Columbia. And remember what shalom means. It means hello or goodbye, and you get to choose which one it is. So the federal grants for Columbia University are bye-bye. Next up, Iran has officially rejected President Donald J. Trump's request for talks over the nuclear deal, you guys. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, stated he's not interested in the talks. Trump had sent a letter recently to request the stopping of the nuclear program they are developing, along with missile development that will deliver the nuclear once developed. Iran now has 6 nuclear bombs that are at 60% enrichment, meaning they only need 3 short weeks to make weapons-grade uranium to turn into bombs. As of early Sunday evening, we are awaiting President Donald J. Trump's response. President Donald Trump deported from Mar-a-Lago on Friday, flew back into D.C. yesterday afternoon. So we will wait and see what he has to say about what is going on with Iran rejecting talks about the nuclear deal. Continuing on, FBI Director Kash Patel has arrested 2 U.S. Army soldiers and 1 former for stealing government property and a bribery scheme. No, go figure. Kash says these individuals had been charged with stealing America's defense intelligence capabilities and empowering adversaries like China and betrayal of our country. He says they will now face American justice. Kash Patel has also asked for bodyguards who are not FBI agents. He has requested to replace his FBI security detail with private contractors due to disloyalty and possible harm. What does that tell you about our FBI agency, everyone? The director of the FBI doesn't even trust them. Also, Secret Service shot a man trying to break into the White House this weekend. Plus, there have been 4 instances recently of a gun being brought into buildings policed by the USCP, which is the United States Capitol Police, since Trump was elected president. Both dates guns were brought into one of the buildings is when President Trump was attending events. This is very concerning and unacceptable, having broken links within those who are supposed to be protecting their president. And then a little bit of information to keep you in your pocket regarding the Epstein files. A little side note, if you want to dig a little, did you know Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter, was the lead prosecutor at the SDNY during the Epstein trials? Also, she is currently a U.S. attorney prosecuting the Diddy trial. So what do you guys think? Nothing to see here, or it's a huge problem? President Donald J. Trump also signs a declaration to declare March 2025 as Women's History Month. This is an honor, he said, but people say he dislikes and disrespects women, but any other president could have done this and they chose not to. So once again, they just flap their lips about things they could have done, but Donald J. Trump is anti-women, and no, he's not. Also in Missouri, won a massive $24 billion lawsuit against China on Friday. If China does not pay, the state will begin seizing the CCP-owned land within its borders. This is a win-win, guys, because we've talked many times about how China owns our property. It's been sold out, our land. Well, this lawsuit is a judgment against China that started in 2020 for accusing Missouri of hoarding protective supplies during the COVID pandemic. Attorney General Andrew Bailey said in a statement, China refuses to show up in court, but that doesn't mean that they get away with causing untold suffering and economic devastation. We intend to collect every single penny by seizing Chinese-owned assets, including Missouri farmland. Judge Stephen Limbaugh said in his ruling that the court finds that Missouri has provided evidence satisfactory to the court to establish each defendant's liability to Missouri under count 4 of plaintiff's complaint, the court. Therefore, enters a judgment against defendants jointly and severely in the amount of $24,488,825,457 plus post-judgment interest. Isn't that amazing? And that does open up the door for anybody else that was accused of anything as well. That does open the door. So we'll keep an eye posted on this story as well. And then the Trump administration, led by U.S. Department of Education and the Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism, to carry on to that last story, has canceled that $400 million in federal grants to Columbia University. But in that continuation of DOGE, just so you guys know, they've been saving U.S. taxpayer dollars. And here's a few more things that have been canceled that's going to make you happy, because it makes no sense of spending our tax dollars this way. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali, 1.5 million voter confidence in Liberia. That's an important one. Not 20 million for fiscal federalism in Nepal, 19 million for biodiversity conversion in Nepal, $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia, $22 million for inclusive and participatory political process in Moldova, and then $21 million for voter turnout in India. So I say money well saved and poorly spent in the past, and that is just a wonderful moment there to go through these numbers and see how our taxpayer dollars have been spent so recklessly, and how DOGE is really putting in the forefront of how it was spent and trying to correct that, to bring that money back into our country, keep it in our country, and serve we the American people like they should. And also, just in, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has canceled 83% of the USAID programs as they continue to cleanse the deep state from our government. And we're going to give the full details to you tomorrow on Headline Hits at noon Eastern Standard Time. We'll give you all the details of that and more. So that's what I have for you this morning and this afternoon for this Monday, March 10th, 2025 for Headline Hits, you guys. Once again, thanks for joining me. I will see you guys tomorrow. Please, before you leave, give us a like, a share, and subscribe. So take care. Once again, thanks for joining me, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.